So, yeah, so he's well, but he's not going to be hanging out and speaking. And he was quite happy to have a little break from the spiel. And he trusts that we're going to all interact and assist each other and just let the ball rolling. So non-duality, one. What's one? Non-negotiable, beyond any concepts, beyond anything that could be captured, put in the form and discarded, is the presence. That's the existence. That's the non-duality. That's the reality. That's as close as we can get to what is. Because anything that we can experience is already a transformation of that field of potentiality into certain form, because we only experience forms. Sound is a form and the sight is a form. But the screen on which all the forms appear is formless. That's why the forms are known, because of the formless, empty field or consciousness. And that is the essence. That is what I am. That is what you are. And that can't be denied. That can't be discarded. It can't be in any way encapsulated and noticed or known as an object. It can't be known, because that's the knowing principle. That's the knowing. Another way of at pointing at that non-dual life essence is being, knowing, loving to be, Satchitananda. So it is not a nowhere knowing the known. It is the principle, the activity, the energy, the knowing capacity for knowing. And that's what we are. The idea comes upon it that there is a form that is knowing some other form. But that's just a dream. That's just a conceptual idea put on the capacity of knowing, capacity for knowing, or intelligence energy. So there is only the thought is dividing that pure field, open field of knowing into the knower and known. Without the thought, the division is non-experienceable. If I don't have a thought that I'm the body, or I'm this face, or I'm this mind, there is no distinction between me and the environment. There is just one field of experiencing. There isn't any separation between this body and the world in which this body appears. It's only the idea, the conditioned idea, which comes up and says, this is me here within the skin, and outside of skin is not me. And that idea has been learned and practiced and rehearsed throughout the life. No wonder it sticks, and it represents, it kind of feels so convincing that is almost impossible to see through it. Because almost impossible, because the way we try seeing through it is using the very cognitive capacity. It's impossible. Can't see the mind, can't find the mind with the mind, can't transcend the mind by using the mind. It is about finding out that the knowing capacity is beyond the content of the knowing already, always and ever. And without the thinking, without that dividing, putting boundaries on things, I am here, you are there, I'm enlightened, you're not, whatever, all those concepts are only playing out in that field of knowing. The content of the concepts is totally secondary to the fact of the knowing. So it is really about relaxing out of the concepts, disregarding, distrusting that concepts. And we all know what extreme conditions of following or believing concepts leads to. You see the condition of that so-called world, that so-called humanity, the immense suffering, because the body doesn't have appropriate shape or form, or because the it doesn't have enough of self-esteem or self-love, or is rejected. All those ideas, concepts which cause much suffering on the individual and on the collective level, they all based in thought, in belief in something. Not to mention systems and religions and schools which create fanaticism and division, further division. So extreme case of believing and entangling with thoughts create extreme suffering. Less entangling with thoughts, less suffering. If we look at the world, the way natural world functions, the so-called thought, because again, it depends on the definition of the thought, the action, activity that shows up in the animals world still creates functional societies, it creates family unit, it creates wars or tribal or territorial movements between the animals. But the suffering caused by association, being a believer or being a fanatical defender of the idea, is absent. So that part of suffering, that acute sense of psychological suffering, is not there. So now that's the way to actually realize what the thought has done to you, any thought. Everyone had believed in something that has later on been questioned. And what the degree of freedom when you don't have to believe what you used to believe. And now easing off every possible concept and just being free, being that space, that's the end of suffering. But can that be done? No. It only can be recognized as already present. It can't be done or achieved because there have to be someone who does it or achieve it, who is separated from everything. And that's not the case. That one doesn't exist. So no amount of practice, no amount of fixing, altering, modifying, correcting, changing can do the job for the individual, which is non-existent. Doesn't mean life will not move you to do things or to sing songs or chant whatever. The movement is still there. It's just the idea behind the movement that this will give me something that I want and I don't have. That idea is erroneous. That idea is unnecessary. Without that idea, life flows just the way life flows for the eagles or tigers. And the same way life flows for everyone. It's just on top of that flow of life, there are those ideas. I believe in this, so I am right. You don't believe it, you're an idiot. Or I have to destroy you or convert you. Or how am I going to believe or fake it till I make it believe that I am that? That's not going to happen either. Because if there is the I that believes in something or the other, that I has to be recognized as an object in consciousness. So it really is about the recognition of what is already and always here. If your definition of freedom is thoughtlessness, then recognize the thoughtlessness. That underneath the chatter, there is a thoughtlessness. If there is an idea of oneness with the universe, then recognize the oneness with the universe. It is all already right here, right now. There is nothing that can happen tomorrow or in 5 minutes. It's the recognition of what is already so. So the fact of presence, undeniable fact of presence, it can be recognized as already here. It can't be achieved. It is already here. Just relaxing into that recognition. And then things stand in the way. The ideas stand in the way. Again, recognize ideas standing in the way. Because when they are recognized, obviously the recognition comes from the field of consciousness. When the thought is known as a thought, it already is from the standpoint of freedom. The problem is the machine works and it operates the way that in hindsight it's easy to see that was a thought. But in the moment, it wakes up from the dream and it realizes, oh my God, where were I for the last half an hour or 2 hours? That's the point to again recognize the past is dead. How about now? What about now? Doesn't matter what happened. The machinery, the way it is programmed, it will try to learn from mistakes. Oh, I've done it wrong. I didn't get it. I have to learn from it. No, there is no I that can learn. This is a trap. They are those little seeming traps, which the intention of the program is to assist. And it is wonderful software to assist wherever, you know, you stub your toe, you know, to walk around that obstacle next time. That's fantastic. But with the recognition of what is already here, learning is not required. If anything, then it is unlearning, letting go of erroneous ideas. That's the only thing. So it really is that simple that we miss it. There is so many concepts and ideas that the simplicity is missed out, that it can't be achieved, it can't be found. It's not a state of mind. It is the basic presence of awareness, always and ever here. Somehow conceptually squashed into the idea of me. But then the me is just a costume on that vastness, on that life essence. And that can be recognized. And that can be marveled at. Because when you see, hi Tonya, when you see how that life, that incredible, miraculous, mysterious force which stands behind every movement, every creation, how it hides in that idea of a little costume, of a little me, and then seeks for itself. That's just marvelous. That's incredible. That's, how could it ever convince itself that it is not itself? And that's how absurd it is from the standpoint of realizing that there is no self. But from the other end, like 7, 8, 9 years ago, when I was looking at those ideas and trying to find the space in which I am not the little me, I'm something else, but what? That was equally impossible, because it can't be understood conceptually. But without the concept, it can't be denied. Everyone is already being, knowing that they are in the natural state, being and knowing that they are in that natural state all the time. It's the narrative that is obscuring it. It's the clouds that cover the sky, but they don't touch the sky. They don't really harm the sky. Natural state is present underneath that dysregulated machinery, which is designed to protect the body and is designed to look for better life for the body, always search somewhere else in the future, in the next moment, in the next relationship. That is its function. And it is a wonderful function. It serves in the animal world in a magnificent way. In the human world, it backfires because of that tendency to identify as the narrative self. So it really is about the recognition, the natural state always being here, and what obscures it, what stands in the way. The concept of self, concept of me. I feel that I am here. Of course. of course. But do I feel what I am? That's impossible. There may be an idea that, yeah, but I feel that I'm the body mind trapped somewhere here or there. That's an idea. That's not an experience. What's the experience? What is the experience of being? I like when Tonya sometimes points out to experience of the flow of the energy through the body. That's not an experience of being, but that's very, very close and easy and helpful present sensation, which stems directly from the experience of being. That's the being can't be experienced, but from the reality of being. Reality of being is like the energy, electricity, when the current doesn't flow. And when it flows, it goes through the cable or it goes through the Wi-Fi and it shows up as a light or heat or something. So you can feel that light or the heat or vibration. That is already a transformation of that pure potentiality. But that one is a present sensation. That one you can really bring yourself back from the interpreting and thinking to that present sensation, and realizing that that present sensation is only possible because there is a basic screen of being, of presence. Without that basic screen, there wouldn't be a sensation of the flow of energy in the hands or in the lips or tensions or muscles or sounds or sights, nothing. So it implies that there is an existence. Anything that can be perceived through sensory perception, through any sensation, it implies there is an existence, and that existence can't be experienced because the existence is the experiencing itself, and that's what you are. That's what I am, the experiencing existence, existing being. So relaxing back, most of all from the head, most of all from the conceptual thinking. Hi, Amarnath. But apart from thinking, also that awareness of presence in the presence of sensations. And just relaxing, relaxing, relaxing. In that relaxation, the miracle reveals itself. The joyousness, the joy of being. The joy of experiencing that tingling life essence that animates the body, that is present. All the sounds, or the sights or smells or all of it. Those are the content. But they can be delicious. They don't have to cause dysregulation and suffering. And that, again, is not to say that everything is discriminately accepted and marveled at, including suffering and wars and stuff like this. No, that one, the judgment comes up according to the conditioning of the body, of course. If the body is conditioned to condemn wars and or to perhaps assert and marvel at them, that's what's going to happen, but that's secondary. It is often criticized, the Advaita and non-duality, for not having ethical code and teaching people morality. You should do this, you shouldn't do that, you should think this, you shouldn't think that. And some of the groups or schools, depending on the size of the gatherings around one or the other of the speakers, do address those things. And again, that presumes that there is a doer who has a choice, which upon investigation just doesn't really stand up. And at the same time, that also shows that this is how the life unfolds, just the same way as children are sent to school and taught. In the same way, the Sangha of one or the other school is also taught. So we don't go there. Bob doesn't go there, and I don't find it necessary either. But he's got a beautiful point about people who are inherently at peace and happy. They don't usually wish anyone any harm. People who wish harm on others are usually those who suffer. So the end of suffering, ultimately end of psychological suffering, inevitably leads to opening the heart, to increasing compassion, and finding more benevolence and love towards the creation. It may not be immediate. It depends on the conditioning of the machinery. And if anyone is moved to study some ethical systems or morality, well, that's life moves you. That's always life behind it. But really, it is just about coming back to what's already here, already present, undeniable, and relaxing into that, recognizing it, relaxing, recognizing. So that's the point where Bob usually wraps up and open up for conversation. I can entertain you more. I can talk about it forever, as easy, as natural. But I think there is just so much gifts you all have. Tonya.
I'm guilty. I could listen to you forever, Kat. And Bob. It's so lovely to see you this morning. I was listening to something earlier, and I don't know, it's just a thought that I was thinking about, and I suppose, like, all of these efforts, to drop the mind, the intellectual aspect of, like, you're not this person that you thought yourself to be. And like you were just saying about the mechanisms of the body, like, the machinery, basically, the machinery. And it's like, for all of these years, these thoughts that we did have and these persons that we believed ourselves to be, the machinery functioned around that. So our body, with the intelligence that's completely separate to the intelligence that our mind has, our body coped and it survived. And it's like, when you see through those thoughts for what they are and those concepts and those identifications that you've had, the body is still coping and still surviving out of love. So it's like relaxing back into realizing that, okay, there are some coping mechanisms now that, are not great, or that that aren't so benevolent, as you said earlier, However, the body is just habiting, and those habits have formed for many, many years. And it's just beautiful to think that throughout those many years, throughout those identifications, the body loved you enough to cope and survive that. Yeah. The body's doing the exact same thing now. It's just coping and it's just surviving and it's just moment to moment. And I don't know, for me, it was just another little drop back into, oh, wow. My body is so, so intelligent. And when I say intelligent, it's not the same intelligence that we would intellectually refer to. It's this intelligence that Bob would refer to, that life force, that essence, that intelligence that is shining the stars and, raining outside so heavily now. And I can just feel the droplets inside my body so, fervently. It's absolutely frightening. It's that intelligence. That's how the body performs. And I think that's a lovely way to, it's a lovely thing just to remember when things get very overwhelmed, because for me, I do get very overwhelmed and I react and I can berate myself at times. And it's like, that's all okay too. That's okay too. The mind's interpretation of whatever is happening, it's never going to be it anyway. So just relax. Trust your body is coping and surviving beautifully in this moment, and just offering that space to whatever shows up just gives a natural relaxation to everything, to be exactly how it is. So I don't know, that was just something that I was listening to this morning, and these were my thoughts when I was in the shower this morning.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. That is recognizing and reflecting back that intelligence which is behind the whole miracle of existence. Of course, it is brilliant. Of course, it is already doing the best it can, and it's just dancing this dance. And that include, as you say, that include when there is overwhelmed. That include cancer, you know, Nisargadatta or Ramana, all those guys, old age, that's just what it goes with. And who says this is good or bad? Who says this is appropriate or wrong? And we have emails with people asking questions regarding physical body, having, for example, having phobias or like claustrophobia, not leaving the house, or having panic attacks, or bulimia, anorexia, all sorts of different conditioning, which is just the way that body found to cope with the situation that it finds itself in. And the program has been developed, and later on along the way, that program may not be as supportive as it was once, but it is there. And of course, what the answer non-duality has to it. Non-duality doesn't have any answers. It says relax and say, as you said, relax and see what naturally comes up. And listen, be with that still small voice, see where the life guides you. That may be a diet, that may be a doctor, that may be a healer, that may be whoever, who knows? Or it may be a painful death. The body has to go one way or another, one day anyway. But there is, when you see just the way you describe the great intelligence between that whole dance, how it already, you know, like it is almost diminishing when I call it machinery, but it is, of course, every fracture, every cell in this machinery is alive, is sentient, is having its own integrity, although it's inseparable from everything else, from the whole environment. And it's brilliant, it's beautiful. Just it's if you don't see the brilliance, look again. It's there. It's there. Yes, Bob is also having sometimes people with mental issues, like severe mental disorders, and they look for help in non-duality. And I remember even Julia sometimes saying, I sometimes jokingly challenge her because she's got this really beautiful, I love Julia and I love her mind, but it's really very, very chatty. She says, and I joke that she wouldn't be able to accomplish Vipassana training. That's just completely beyond her capacity. And she gets a little bit, you know, challenged. And she says, oh, I'll prove you, I'll show you. And the concept is that the solution to all the problems is to step down and see the mind from beyond the mind, which is not wrong, but it doesn't mean it will change the way the computer works. It still works in the same way. Freedom is not about changing the mind. It is not about reprogramming it. It is not about, which is nothing wrong. It's absolutely, by no means there is anything wrong in learning new skills. Learning new language or learning to play music instrument is mind training. Learning concentration, focusing on the candle or repeating mantra is a mind training. And they're wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful. They're beautiful. They're also ways to concentrate and heal the body. There is nothing wrong. They're wonderful. But they don't deliver on the promise they make. If there is a narrative around particular behavior or practice that it will give you something in the future, Well, that's just, we are back in the dream. Because in the dream, when you do 2,000 hours on your car, then you're going to be better driver. That's correct. It happens in the future. It works this way. If you do 100 push-ups a day, your muscles will grow. That works. But looking for what is already here, it doesn't take any practice. It takes stepping back, relaxing, and recognizing. It can't be achieved by anything. The achievement can be made. Oh, I see Amarnath is unmute. Hi, Amarnath.
Yeah, hi, Kat. Just I wanted to ask about Bob. Joined late. Hope he's well.
Yes, yes. I think you were on our Facebook group. That's why I didn't give you the update. I put the update there because that kind of...
Yeah, he was talking, but based on your tubing, I thought something was in the stomach or something like upset. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know what
yeah,
is
yeah.
there.
It will stay there. It will stay there. The tubes will stay in the nose for a few days, but it is nothing wrong. It is actually right. They are just taking all
Okay.
the excess fluid from his stomach, and they're feeding him through it, giving him medication through it. So that's all good. He's getting better.
Yeah.
He's recovering faster than expected. The nurses told him that he is off the hook. He doesn't have to get off the bed because they just took the tube out of his neck from central full
Yeah,
anesthesia.
I know it's a lot of painful thing to keep the nasal tube because it gives lot of resistance or irritation. So
Yes.
unless until we keep ourselves, I get tears when I see patients with like that. So I get tears in my eyes. It's a very difficult condition. Means the resistance of the body, whatever natural mechanism is there. So my sincere prayers for him, and hope he will be all right. Just I wanted to have some fun for today. I had a patient today. They asked, one girl came for a thyroid problem. 6 years girl. I asked, what do you want to become? She started telling, I wanted to become painter. She said, why you want to become? Means I like painting and all. I like, okay, good. What else you want? She was going on telling, I wanted to become doctor. Why you want to become doctor? Same girl. Said, okay, because if somebody has fallen anywhere, some injury or something, we'll take it to him. Somebody unconscious, so he will save the life. So I wanted to become doctor. Then third thing she was saying, I wanted to become teacher.
Yes.
Said, why you want to become teacher? Then she started saying, teacher has an intelligent brain, bigger brain than anyone. Okay,
Oh.
okay. It was so funny because I am a children's doctor. So just I open up just like that. Then she said, I want to become police. I said, why you want to? Because I am afraid of all thieves. So after becoming uh, like adult, I wanted to take care of them like that. I said, okay, okay, no problem. This I understood that her eye is still not like located, one pointed, and she don't have an idea that I should become only one. So like that was thing. And one more interesting thing I observed was she was wearing a T-shirt. On that, two ducks were there, painted like this thing. And I asked, anytime you have noticed these ducks and have seen the real ducks? No, 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 I did not see. Then father was saying, I have shown you many times. Then I said to father, you wanted to show, but she don't want to learn that time. That is the thing. Now she is interested. Now she is interested, and that's why she will definitely catch. Just show her the real ducks. And he said, yes, sir, like that. Then her elder sister was there. I asked, what do you want to become? Just like that, funny. Actually, she is not a patient. She said, doctor, I want to become teacher. Then I asked her, is teacher is afraid because she was little scareful. I asked, teacher is afraid of students or students are afraid of teacher? She started saying, teacher is afraid of students, sir. Because brought up her mind and all like that. So it was nothing like self expressing through everyone. Like that. It was so funny. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. I love your example of You know, she wasn't ready to learn.
Yeah.
Can't push it on her until she comes and asks.
Yes, yes, yes.
And a lovely way
Nice.
also to play.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. So
selfish.
innocent, and even their fear they are expressing. So truthful, no? She's not lying, even though she's
Mhm.
telling. Teacher is afraid of students. That's also right nowadays, huh? because because of the children, they are so much conditioned, and they are telling you should do like this, you should do like that. So
Yeah.
you should accept. Uh, there are thousands of answers for single question, even infinite. We can say that.
Mm. Yeah. And you can see the pure perfection behind it. You can
Yes,
see
yes,
that
yes,
this
yes,
is all God speaking. This is all
yes, yes, yes.
self-playing. Playing.
Exactly. Even
Yeah.
all imperfection also, even all imperfection also expression of the same thing.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The amount of joy I was seeing, I see a lot of times, any small kid, at least 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, they say me thanks, no, so much
Mm.
of bliss is there. I feel so much of bliss. Now we are so much of conditioned, and just for sake of impressing others, huh, artificially we are saying thank you and all, they, again and again, thank you doctor, thank you, thank you. Means the whole mind and the heart is involved. The expression I see, because I am a child specialist, so I
Yes.
learned so much of things. And yesterday, one more patient came. I said, you should learn a lot of things from the your kid, not like now we are imposing our conditioning on them. You can up to certain level, like that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's true. Bob often says children are much closer to it. So yeah, watch them, observe them, see that. Yeah, I'll pass on Bob your genuine worry and compassion, but I'll assure you he was, even though he's on a big dose of different painkillers, he was quite happy. He was quite elated. There is a bit of pain, but yeah, he was ahead
Yeah,
of
yeah,
what he was expected of. He wasn't expected to go out of bed and sit on the chair, but he was just fine doing it. So he's wonderful. He's fantastic.
yeah. One more interesting question was asked by one of the school child. I go for school for free training of all these things, like personality development on all I do on every Thursdays. So one child came and asked me a medical question. Doctor, I am getting hair loss. And nothing hair loss was there, but his feeling was more. I said,
Mm.
daily everyone loses 100 hairs. This is a medical thing. Everybody knows. If I'm losing 100 and 200, all hair will lose. What will happen? Every day we are losing 100 hairs. So I will become taklu, alopecia, complete loss. No, you
Mm.
will get as they are going off, they are coming off also, like that. Whatever thoughts we are thinking, they are coming, they are going also. Simultaneously both processes are uh, mixed. There is like dvandva, we call dual, no? Like sukha
Mm.
dukkha, sorrow and happiness, always they are interlinked, but we are never aware of the opposite thing. They are
Mm.
interested in, like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw Tonya, you were on mute for a moment or gone away.
Can you hear me? I got
Yeah,
my earphones. Okay.
yeah.
I was just thinking, because we're talking about the kids and stuff like that. Like, I suppose a lot of these movements within me would have come about simply by watching my own daughter. So my youngest daughter is autistic, and there's certain things that she would struggle with. But I suppose by seeing the specific patterns that she would experience and the contractions that she would experience, and noticing what relaxation does for her, not particularly in the moments of overwhelmingness, but cultivating that relaxation when she is relaxed, and how much that gives bandwidth in order to cope even more so when the overwhelmingness does happen. So like just simply watching her has been amazing, I suppose. And like that, like all kids just offer that simplistic art of just being really naturally, don't they? And I don't know, like kids are amazing, and it's spending time with them doing what they do is, you know, more often not just simply being in the moment. It's beautiful. Kids do amazing things to help us realize
Yeah.
what exactly we all are, I think. And yeah.
Oh, beautiful. See how Jesus says, recognize thee in all thy ways. Recognize that one essence in the kids, in the plants, in the flowers, in the trees, in the cats. I see Anya, she's playing with the cat up there. I watch that cat up, and we have a couple of cats too. What the teachers, the nature, it gives you a clues everywhere. Wherever you look, everything stands in its being, even so-called inanimate objects. Although nature doesn't know anything as inanimate, because as far as we know, everything is a movement. Everything is made of some sort of a building bricks like protons, neutrons, which are movement, which are vibrations. So even the hardest rock, even the diamond, is still there is an object that grows, that changes over time, and is alive. There is aliveness to everything. And seeing that behind that aliveness is the same intelligence, and seeing how that intelligence dances. You can even see it through, as you say, autistic mind. You can see it through mental illness also. When you see people having incredible struggles, and it's heartbreaking struggles, when there is childhood complex trauma involved. And oh my gosh, it's just, don't even have to go there, but you see the brilliance of intelligence that created that pattern, that survival mechanism, and it took it to the place where it created suffering so acute that it calls for investigation. And you see the brilliance of that picture, and you recognize thy in all thy way. You recognize that force, that life essence behind everything. You see it dancing through every moment of suffering. You see it dancing through the sunlight and stars at night. You can see it in the music. You can see it everywhere. Because there is nothing else. It's just that.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because like you're talking about that there now, that the acute suffering, right? Because I suppose I'm speaking specifically in the experiences with my daughter, you know, and there's a natural habit for her to run away from anything that, you know, doesn't necessarily assume the role of nice, okay, let's just say. And as a mother, the natural habit is to take her away from any suffering at all, because I'm her mother and I want to protect her, and you know. But however, by relaxing back and just being with her throughout that, just, I don't know, like her natural habit is to run away, and the natural habit of the mother is to run away with her, to help her run away. But however, when we relax and just be even in those moments, it just is forming other habits for her. Like, as in, like, I'm just speaking specifically. We went to a party now last week, right? And the noise, it was far too loud. However, we sat there and she was crying and she was like covering her ears and she was doing all these things. And I was like, I'm here. I'll hold your hand. Okay. And just like that, after about 20 minutes, right? Just like that, I could have run 10 minutes before that, crying out to the car, you know, for whatever reason, the story of the mother and my child is autistic and all of this stuff, right? And we can't go to a party, blah, 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 whatever. We just sat there and I just was there with her when she was gonna, and just like that, she got up and she ran off and she started dancing. I'm not saying that applies to everybody, but what I am saying is that to offer relaxation in those moments, I have seen experientially, is the most powerful thing. It's the most transformative, alchemistic element of all of this. It's like up until that moment, her natural habit is to run away from loud noise. But yet, no, just like that, the body realizes I'm coping, I'm surviving until this. However, the body's like, I want to move to the music, and just runs off and starts dancing. And it's like, just to see those things like in the space of seconds, moment to moment, and like just being able to be fresh and free and new. Because when she did run off, it was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And just being able to be with that, as opposed to, like, you know, feeling the heaviness of the 20 minutes that we were after experiencing prior to that. It was just fresh, it was just new, it was just perfect. It was, you know, so it's, oh, well, it's, I don't know, like I'm just more looking at the habits, the natural habits of the body, and the body mechanism and the intelligence there. And you know, non-duality doesn't refer to anything in that. However, right, my natural gravitation towards non-duality, true enough, what I could there, realizing or experiencing the relaxation that that offers me, allows me now to be in this space where I can play with non-duality. I can play with the body, I can play with the mind, I can play with my identifications, play with my personality. Do you know, it's like, wow, there's just so much juiciness in all of it. And it's like, you know, like unfocused attention, as what Bob said. I'm not focusing on duality. I'm not focusing on the identification. I'm not focusing on the role of mother. It's unfocused attention of everything, no matter
Yeah.
what shows up. And like, you know, this body is, you know, just reacting so
Playful.
beautifully, so naturally. Yeah, it's like, yeah,
Playful is joy of
amazing.
being. Yeah, that's
Mm,
beautiful. That is such a gorgeous description, because that
mm,
is really that natural state in which you are playful, you're ready to experiment, you actually curious about, oh yeah, let's have fun with it. This is not applying non-duality philosophy or anything like that. This is what you discover when some of those undoing has happened, or when complete undoing has happened, and it's just really moving with that flow of life. This is the naturally the courage is the wrong word, but there is a more of so-called courage. You know, whilst in another situation you would run away, now there is that sort of a natural curiosity, openness, and courage. That is a byproduct of realizing that, you know, that oneness, that inherently nothing can ever harm you, because you are that substratum, that essence that can't be harmed. And that is not realized conceptually. That is not understood by repeating that, oh, I am not the body, I am. No, this is realization that is there in the emptiness. Emptiness can't be harmed. And somehow relaxing to the point in which you become that emptiness, it is natural. This is what is there. And it's
I think
lovely.
it's important to say, even in those moments of overwhelmingness, Kat, like, you know, for me now, it's like the felt expression of whatever's happening is so immense for me. Okay, for both positive or negative ways, whatever way, the intensity of what's being experienced. So, in those moments of overwhelmingness where I feel my body pulsating, I genuinely feel like I'm ready to explode. It's those things are really, really felt. They don't go away. But they're not wrong. That's my body coping and surviving in that moment. If I try to deny that, if I deny the thoughts that come up with that, you know, that's me running away and, you know, trying to resist what is, everything that's happening, even the thoughts of, I can't cope with my child. What kind of a mother am I? And listen, I've got my daughter telling me these things too. So verbally, I'm getting it too. So all of these things are happening. And, you know, it's all being felt and it's intense. It's overwhelming. But experiencing that intensity, it's like a pendulum swinging. So both, I don't want to say positive and negative, because in those moments of intense overwhelmingness, the what's being experienced there, there's so much truth and honesty in that. Now, I feel this is not a reaction out of the person that's trying to be a good mother, that's trying to portray an image of perfection, that's trying to, you know, hold and control this moment to be something that it is. This is, you know, it's a person, of course it's a person. This is just being with whatever is there in the moment. And resistance can happen there too, and that's okay. That's
Yes.
okay. That's a natural resistance. That's, you know, moment
Yeah.
to moment.
Absolutely. Any discomfort, it is a call for honesty, and it can have this component of curiosity. I remember Bob very often saying that he had throughout his life, and I know that every one of you have experienced situations of suffering, physical, emotional, losing someone that you loved, or losing something, or not getting. This is just a common human story and experience where all those things can be brought into the picture, and everybody could relate to it. And he had the moments where he lost his health. He couldn't walk. He was in his 60s and he has Ross River fever. He had the farm. He couldn't work on the farm. He was useless. He said if that happened prior to meeting Nisargadatta, he would be looking for a gun to knock himself off. But at this point, he was just wondering, I wonder, how bad is that gonna get? And how it is gonna turn around? Because always ever does. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same. Is it going to get worse? Okay, let me see. How much worse is that going to get? I'm curious. Having the curiosity, or having the family on his back, being responsible for the family and losing all the money completely, being crook solicitors that took everything. And now just facing that, oh my God, what are we going to do? Oh, let's see. Let's see what happens. With the curiosity. Situation like yesterday, emergency surgery. We were joking to the moment they rolled him off. But the situation could change in a second. Whatever was there could have bursted and that would be the end of him. And he's got no fear of dying, of course. And I don't think anyone has really fear of their own dying. They may have more fear of their children or their loved ones dying. But that situation is normally quite stressful for the body, and being in the hospital circumstance, in the environment in which all those smells that trigger the blood pressure and everything, but the mind is clear. So this is, it's not that once you realize what's already there, and you stop realizing unnecessary nonsense and you just check thoughts as see them for what they are, then there will never be an uncomfortable situation or stressful situation. Of course they will be. Of course, look at the wildlife, how stressful their life is. The danger is there every second and behind every bush and every tree. Not like how much danger do we have? We experience a lot of stress, but really, what sort of danger? Statistically, when you drive the car, maybe one in 30,000, you can, have a little scratch. But the natural world is full of stressful situations, but they don't have to cause any suffering. They can be approached with curiosity and honesty. Like, oh, this body responds in this way. Wow, that's amazing. That's not me doing something right or something wrong. That's the presence, that's the consciousness experiencing this perfectly beautiful, brilliant child of itself, the body-mind, and looking at this body-mind. Wow, see how it responds. Oh, it has peanut allergy. Oh, it ate the peanut. Oh, it got convulsions. Wow, amazing. And seeing everything that happens. On one hand, there is detachment, but on the other hand, there is amazement, love, and gratitude, is complete connection. There is not that the body is separated, and I'm aloof somewhere. No, actually the embodiment of presence and being in touch with everything that the body can experience is much greater than being aloof, withdrawn into the daydream of the head. So even though the pointer says you are not the body, well, experientially, the body is really a beautiful, simple invitation to step down from the daydream of thinking and be present with the sensation. You're not the body, but without the you, there is no body. But without the body, there is no experiencing. So being everything, the body is included, nothing's excluded. And it's, yeah.
That's actually what I was going to say there, Kat, is like, you know, the body, the mind is non-excluded, non-duality. You know, okay, we can say one, but I mean, that's a word and that's a concept. Non-duality excludes nothing, including the mind and the body, identification, like, you know, everything, all of it. It's like, wow.
Yeah. I would like to hear from others. Would you like anyone to add something and just say something? What are you struggling with, or what works, or what helps? Or even, you know, what you miss the most with the absence of Bob? Oh, Stephen, what would you have heard?
Hello. Well, all the best to Bob anyway, and thanks very much for coming on today. Yeah, it's really great. I mean, I think time is quite interesting about how this understanding comes about, and that it is all, the problem is all conceptual thinking and taking that seriously. I remember years ago, you talking about time and, you know, 5 minutes, you can't experience what's going to happen in 5 minutes. Like, I had an interesting thing today where I came on it, the time it is in the UK, and nobody appeared. So I was wondering what was going on. And of course, the British summertime had changed, and so I was an hour early. Now, that's time. We all understand what time is.
Yes.
And yet in experience, in the ongoing life, there is just awareness, and things are coming and going in this awareness. No problem with it. Everybody understands what it means by there is no time, but also conventionally there is time. So
Yes.
I remember when I started this years ago, and some teachers were talking about there is no time, and it was more confusing than anything else. But it was more confusing because my mind was trying to sort it all out. You know, I was reading far more into it than there was actually going on. So anyway, that's just a point. Time is as you say, I'm all this is very simple, but it's getting the mind, is putting the mind in its right place, really. I mean, the other day I got caught up in thinking about me and myself, and it was a torrent of thoughts, and it's better than it used to be, but you know, still pretty unpleasant, and just amazing stuff. Anyway, so thanks very much, everybody. I mean, I think this is wonderful what's going on, really. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a beautiful point. Of course, within the dream there is time. Within the dream there is a matter. Everything is a vibration. Everything is a Maya, an illusion. But in the dream, it is totally real. It feels real when we are in the night dream at night, or we are in that daydream here. There is no questioning. There is a sense of being in the body and moving through time, being a child and being young adult, and all that thing is totally valid, totally valid. I love when Bob uses the pointer, valid in the appearance. It is valid in the dream. And at the same time, it can't be experienced. Only through the concept, only through the imagination. The only way to experience yesterday is through imagination, which is memory. There is no way of experiencing it any other time than this moment. So the daydream, with all its beautiful offering of incredible experiences and the learning, is there to be loved, but it can't be experienced in any other way than through mental imaging. And the reality that first generation sort of primary experiential reality beyond that daydream doesn't contain time. So time totally exists within the dream and totally doesn't beyond it. Because beyond the conceptualizing, there's just this moment, and there is no yesterday, and there is no tomorrow. Because the yesterday and the tomorrow are conceptualized. I see Amarnath is writing something. Yes, I can see best way of experience of no time is in our deep sleep. Similarly, in late waking state of self-realized waking state, mental, physical time is imagined virtual. There's only timelessness. That's right. Yeah, beautiful. Anyone would like to add something or say something? Or I'm not gonna push or call names or anything. It's just an invitation.
And your point about morality was quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to see the truth of here has got nothing to do with morality at all, you know, in ways of living life and whatever, which doesn't negate the fact that, you know, I'd rather live in not I say I, but it's much nicer to live in a world where people are being kind and considerate. But it's got nothing to do with this really, yeah. So but I know I always go on about the Buddhist thing because that's where I come from really, but even in the Buddhist thing, it's like the morality side of it, or the ethics, is mundane right view about beings living in the world, you know, and that it can help to the next stage, which is just helping to, you know, still the thinking a bit and onto the concentration, but nothing. And then it goes on to the other thing, which is the supramundane right view, which is all of this observation of transience, and none of the things we can observe is anything that the thing we're at. It's the thing behind it. Although I think Buddhism sometimes doesn't emphasize the awareness, like the non-duality side does. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because some religions do very much go for the morality side of things, and I think miss the point sometimes. But not to say that it's not valuable, yeah. So anyway, that's a little comment.
Yeah, that's so true. It is also the popular thing, especially on the beginning of the path, comparing different gurus. Oh, this one said this. Oh, this one is an idiot. He shouldn't be saying that. Same with religions. That whole thing completely forgets that behind the whole expression is the same life essence. Is the same life essence expressing as Christianity and telling you to show the other cheek, and the same life essence turning Christianity into the crusades and burning witches, and the same essence behind Christianity experiencing pedophilia, and the same essence is creating every public speaker and every guru or non-guru. Judgment also comes from the same life essence, but nobody has any doing. I remember people criticizing, Mooji should not allow people to bow to him. He's not the doer. He has no saying. Oh, Eckhart Tolle shouldn't be talking about New Earth. He's got no saying either. The life speaks through. Speaks through everyone. And when you find yourself surrounded by 5 million people in opposition to being surrounded by 5 or 15, life will speak differently. But it's always and ever the same life. And the same with morality, the same with why religions take this turn or take this role or take this way. There is no why, because they don't do it. It's the life behind it. And I see Amarnath is unmute.
Yeah, regarding morality, as Kat was expressing very nicely, the same thing was asked a question to Dalai Lama from Tibet in this thing. He says, what is the cause of negative thinking? He says, same thing as you said. One is self-centered thinking. Second one is we are thinking that world is real. These are the two causes. Very precisely, he said.
Yeah.
My mentor used to give a few examples like this. Now you are doing japa, means repetition of God's name with rosary. It's a state of artificial mind. One is
Mm,
drinking alcohol, someone is going to the club. The same awareness is there. There is no difference between all these three. So the aim of your repeating name was to see one pointedness, not that God is there and you have to go and search him like that. That was one thing. And the 2 3 examples he gave me was like three stories he used to tell. One king went to the gods. The gods' time is different. Like in Indian mythology, so 100 years of hours, the human being is just to 1 day for them. So like that, he went to kingdom of heaven. He was very warrior and very strong, and he was left with only one muhurta, means just 3.5 hours of lifetime. So what he should do? He was very much tired. Then he asked the boon. I should be in between the people or the self-realized guru. So within 3.5 hours, he realized. He asked me the question. He was very much tired. He does not have interest in self-realization. He got self-realization. Why can't you? This was one question. Second question, the king Janaka. So this was an interesting story. With his many wives, he went for just like a picnic. And while he was going for picnic, he listened to the siddhas, means who were people who sit on the trees, and they were discussing some points about the discrimination and all, just like what we are doing. Just by listening to them, they were also not self-realized, but they were discussing theoretically. So
yeah.
he got interest into that, and he realized. He said, "You don't have 10 wives. Why can't you get realized?" This was a question to me, because so many times mind get depressed and get frustrated, and all thing will be there, because all those things are our self-centered activity. I know. The third question he puts was the King Bali. So King Bali story is there. When he asked the boon, the whole uh, three lokas, means one is the earth he gave to the god, and second thing he gave akasha, means sky. Third thing, everything he gave. So he had a bhoga, means a luxurious life for 1 lakh years. So he got 1 lakh years. After that, he fed up. He
Yeah.
fed up. So after that, he went and he asked the boon that I should become an ass, so
Mm.
nobody can disturb me. And Shukracharya, the king of the demons, he gives the Upadesha hardly few minutes. He shows to me from the
Mm.
scriptures the least within only few words. Whatever you see is God, whatever you see is Brahman. That's all the Upadesha he gave, and he realized you have not that much of luxurious life, and why can't you get like that? So that gave a good, though it's an analogy, there is no time, but it helped me a lot. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, they are incredible stories to illustrate. Yeah, illustrate the simplicity of it.
About the self-centered activity, I read was like the first, the self-realized monk who went from the India to the other countries was Swami Ramatirtha before Swami Vivekananda. He used to
Mm.
give this example, a small kid story. So small kid wants to drink water or milk in a small glass. Yeah? So
Mhm.
suppose the only child, so he does not know that whatever the vessels, whatever the glasses there in the house, all of mine only. But he's leaving all those things. He wanting only that part. So that's
Mm.
how our self-centered activity starts. And the greatest example my mentor used to tell. So it was a very different type of thinking. So whenever he gets the salary, Swami Ramatirtha used to get the all the clothes and books, pens, and all, and ask if he used to distribute to everyone. When two of his sons came, please stand in the queue. There is no difference between my kid, this kid, like that. So the self-centered activity is completely lost for all self-realized. Even I see same thing like that. So I'm grateful to all of you, and to the Bob. So much of love, so much of distance. There is no
Mm.
distance at all. So I feel it is same, whether with cat or me, and even whatever he comes, they pour complete their hearts into them, just like that, uncaused, without
Yeah.
any reason. That's the greatest thing in the world. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Definitely just the one life. And Julie, hey.
I was going to say good morning, and I stopped myself. So good time of day wherever you are. Sending love to Bob, Kat, and just thank you so much for having the meeting open today. I've been reluctant to share something that's happened because I was worried it would go away, but it was just talking about the stories today and how much bullshit there is around enlightenment and self-realization, and I think I was quite lucky in the fact that I didn't hold shamanism was the thing that I stayed the longest with. And when I look back, it was probably the most truthful of everything because there's no dogma. And Buddhism, I went into thinking it was this big fluffy story of wonderfulness. And then the first thing I went into was the Wheel of Life. And I thought, this is just another version of you're born a sinner and you'll die a sinner. So I didn't hang around in Buddhism very long. And then I found yoga. So I love, like Paramahansa Yogananda. And I thought this is wonderful and started following self-realization and very quickly realized that it was like you have to follow these steps, but very, very quickly realized that I couldn't sit in proper meditation posture. So I thought, well, I'm kind of fucked. I'm not going to get self-realization. I may as well let this go. But actually, what happened was I was sitting and it was one of these nights where I was so sick of everybody talking about oneness, and I was like, I just want to experience oneness. And I got so fed up about reading about it. And the next day I woke up and on my Kindle was a book called Oneness by John Grieven, and it's got a foreword in it by Bob. And so it still took a little while to get to Bob. But in the meantime, I've read around everybody's stories, Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, everything. And that sounded terrifying, like Byron Katie talks about her realization. She just walked into other people's houses because she didn't realize they weren't hers, she didn't care. And the self was like, oh my God, that's the worst thing that could happen. Could you imagine going in and embarrassing yourself, walking into somebody's house and just sitting on their sofa? And I think Nisargadatta talks about it in one of his things where he says, actually, you're not getting it because you're actually wanting self-realization, but you're scared. So there's the one, it's like brake and accelerator at the same time. It's like, yes, I really want this, but actually I'm terrified of what will happen when I get there. But just with the way that Bob works, it's like, the gentleness of the concepts falling away. And Stephen shared a story one day. We were talking about something about somebody that had enlightened, and they said to them, what happened? And he was like, it must have been a piece of straw. So, there's all these concepts of how, we're supposed to self-realize, and millions of people follow it without realizing. When you read the story upon story upon story of people self-realizing, they're all different. How many people sit under a Bodhi tree for three weeks, and it's this idea that it's going to happen in one way. And for me, it happened accidentally by taking, I didn't accidentally take antidepressants, but I'd taken them for not being able to sleep, and a gap opened up. And the gap opened up enough to just have that little taste. And this has only been weeks, in the last month or so. And that little taste was there. But the antidepressants had a side effect of really severe suicidal thoughts. So things had got really hairy for a little bit, and I had to come off them really quickly, but they'd done their job. And then it was like, okay, this slowing, this mind that never shuts up down. And then something turned up. So it was like an alpha brainwave meditation came up, that it was enough to slow my brain down. And I went to do a meditation last week, Kat, and the words came up was, what is I? And I thought, oh, I remember Kat said that months ago, and it was just sounded complete bullshit to me. I was like, what's she going on about? But in that slower state of my brain having gone into, in fact, talking about things that don't make sense, I did an alpha brainwave meditation, and you know, there's all this stuff around it, and I was like, actually, that just feels like the natural state. And somebody's created this whole scientific thing around getting yourself into the natural state. Anyway, I was doing this, and that was it. And I came out, and it was like, oh, this is what oneness is. So it was that one thing that you had said maybe 3 months ago, that in a different state of consciousness coming up was enough to send me over. And just that sense of, yeah, I get it now, do you know?
Beautiful. Yeah,
But
it's much simpler than we thought.
it's so simple, and you're like, is that, and there's almost that sense of, is that it? Do you know, you expect like a big coming out party or something, massive, do you know? And it's like, oh, I get it, because it was actually here all along, do you know?
Yes.
I have been here all along, and it's like, and now I, like, it's like there's bodies and there's thoughts, but like I can't go about saying there's not a Julie here in the world, you know. But yeah, so it was really quite magnificent in that place of, it's just one consciousness and life is happening on that consciousness. It's incredible. And as Ram Dass, sorry, I'm rabbiting on a little bit, but as Ram Dass said, you know, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family. So all this lovely stuff was going on, and I had to go to an appointment with my daughter, and oh my God, it was like, I'm never going in. She's 17 and she's walking, storming up the road, crying at me. And I'm like, I'm feeling like the worst mother on earth. And it's like,
Oh,
so the
boy.
drama didn't go away. You still get pulled into it, but you can get pulled out. And, but it's never not there. And I think it's and I wanted to share that. I didn't want to share the story. Life wanted me to share that story, because it happens in the way that it needs to happen for whoever and whenever it happens, you know. And I would, so I have no plans to, you know, have a following of people to take antidepressants to enlighten, but, you know, it was just an experience.
Oh my gosh, that's just beautiful. And just really how you packaged it with the expectations and fear. I actually found it funny because I have music on my phone completely scrambled. They actually, the app puts it alphabetically. So it goes like, I don't know, 10,000 songs, and I never know what's the next one's gonna be. And I had 2 songs in the same title, which I had never heard before, by some Polish composer, which I didn't know existed. Fear of enlightenment. We hear all those stories and there is a fear, oh my God, I'm gonna lose, you know, like when I stop squeezing my butt, the world will just fall into pieces. I have to keep controlling. I have to. That fear of enlightenment. And then the next one song came also some sort of an electronic fear of enlightenment. Again, I said, oh, okay. So the fear of enlightenment is a concept which I honestly, in my pathway of suffering, I didn't really know, because I was so ready to die in the suffering. I said, okay, whatever, you know, if enlightenment is gonna kill me, just go for it. And what worse than death? Whatever. I mean, I don't care. But I've experienced that, and I heard it from a lot of people, experienced through listening to others, through mirror neurons. People who would have children, and they would be projecting that they will neglect the children and they will not fulfill their duties, and all sorts of other concepts that were going around. And as you say, Byron Katie walking to other people's houses, those exaggerated stories may actually do a little bit of a disservice, because I'm pretty sure if she was to honestly look into her patterns, there might have been situations in her life where she was doing it without having the realization. Because for the body to behave certain way, usually the pattern is required to be pre-existing. So the chances are that, you know, Eckhart Tolle been suicidal before for his 30 years before that final. And its chances happen also that Byron Katie, who locked herself into the nut house, she had predisposition for it, otherwise she wouldn't throughout her life. But the stories are necessary, and that's how life communicates, and that's how life goes to the broader audience. If the story is compelling and is well said and is inviting and is mind-blowing, of course the thousands will want more. And that's the sales pitch. That's how the bug of seeking spreads itself, the virus spreads itself. And that's just how everything in life spreads itself. Yes?
I was just going to say, I think that's why these meetings are so good, do you know, because I think, like Eckhart Tolle talks about not having had a spiritual path and then sat on a bench for 2 years staring at things, you know. And I think there's that sort of, actually I compared it to dismemberment, which is something in shamanism where you get eaten by animals, but there's something being taken away and you get remade. And that's what I feel like this is. It's like that deconceptualization in such a beautiful way that it is not terrifying. And I think you're absolutely right, Kat. I think there's a lot of stories out there that are not serving people that are looking for this as well. But yeah, but this is, I absolutely believe this meeting is absolutely serving. So,
and also,
thank you.
thank you. I heard from people who had the glimpses of looking through that, shit, that's disappointing. You know, I had such a high hopes and expectations. You know, like people are building huge temples, putting hundreds of years of slavery into building a huge temple of Shiva. And what's Shiva? Nothing? Come on. It's not, you know, obviously they're looking through the mind to not see the magnificence. They don't really look through the heart, because when you actually look from here, all the temples are just, they don't do the service to the miracle that existence is of itself, and that you are this existence. But when you look through the mind and you realize, oh shit, you know, what about Byron Katie? She's got such a good story. What story is mine? That's bullshit. Oh, nothing happened. Oh, I was crying and now I'm laughing. And so this is kind of like they say this is the last sort of a disappointment of the ego before it falls away. But there is no ego to fall away. It's just a piece of narrative that is habitually judging and comparing, which makes absolutely, it is completely negligible. Is to be seen for what it is, because obviously it doesn't capture the nature of things. It doesn't, because it is not the heart speaking. It's the comparing, judging mind, which is just another blah blah. Because also, as the patterns start dropping away, it's like Tonya was saying, you know, the joy grows. It's not most of the cases, if not all of the cases, because again, if you look at the way the machine is designed and programmed, the opening of the mind to see through the illusion, that can be instantaneous. But rewiring and really embodying it moment to moment, seeing every concept that arises as a concept, where initially there is reacting out because the body is conditioned to just follow the concept, do this, keep to that diet, or do that. That takes actually time and seeing through, and those things are slowly and gently peeling off in a way that is non-threatening, that doesn't require any fear of enlightenment, and is just deepening, which never stops. Because as long as there is that costume, the seeing will be tainted a little bit by the childhood experiences, by past experiences, by everything that ever happened before. It is inevitable. It will always be. Also the hearing, the seeing, the touching, the experiencing, by the way the personality of the body is. Just like you see, you know, any animal, they also have personalities. Their perception, their interactions in the world are tinted by it. So as long as the body lives, there will be that little bit of a coloring over the experiencing. But once you see the coloring, you also know the coloring appears on that transparent, completely empty, vast screen of space like emptiness. but the coloring will fade, is fading. Over time, more and more concepts lose their sting. Like, and it's not the same, it's not for granted, it's not the same algorithm. It's not that, oh, in 5 years you will not have political opinions, in 15 years you will not have dietary opinions. No, no. They are people who live and die with very strong bias towards one or the other coloring or perspective on life. And that's life expressing itself. And it doesn't mean that the space or the sky is somehow obscured by that little cirrus clouds floating through. Bob has preferences and likes and dislikes and beliefs. Of course, you know, the whole world is believed into existence. On a subtle level, that law of attraction, which is belief coming into the experiencing, is running the whole perception, is running the universe. I see Tonya, you on mute.
It's just that coloring element, because I seen that recently and somebody explained, so it's like the ocean, right? So you take a glass, right, and you fill it with water from the ocean, and it's like it's still the ocean water, but it's contained within the glass, right? And then you apply coloring to it, and that coloring then is, you know, the personality. And I suppose what I was thinking about there, Kat, it's like you were saying, the coloring, you know, it becomes more and more transparent, but ultimately, right, we are all life just living, and we have innate, unique coloring in us. However, there's coloring as well that's probably habited, that's learned through situations and circumstances that have formed simply because of situation, because of the experience of this. And it's like there's a natural coloring there as well, and it's like that natural coloring is so beautiful, and so the movement is so benevolent, as you said earlier, Kat. It's hard to move within that natural innate coloring in a way that's not compassionate and loving and caring. So I don't know, it's just it's just, because I was listening to Julie as well, like, you know, even in terms of the self-realization, I didn't even know what self-realization was. I didn't know any of these terms. I didn't know spirituality. What I did know was that I had built up this huge story of how life was going to be so perfect when I get to there. It was always a moment in the future, a goal. So, I mean, I never knew what spirituality was. However, when I realized what this moment was and how the interconnected of this and me and all of this, what that gave was it. It just, I don't know, that was it. But that was no self-realization. That was no dropping of anything. That was purely realizing, it, like, just becoming aware of what it was to be present. That never changed. That was always there. As Julie said, it was always there. It was always there. But like that, there was no, like, a seeking. The seeking was happening, but I mean, I wouldn't have referred to myself as a seeker, but seeking, just seeking to be anywhere other than this moment, seeking for this moment to be other than what it is.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Perfectly said. Yes, all the seeking is seeking for something else than what is happening now, and all the realization is realization what was never not here.
And these stories and these words, they're so beautiful and so unique and just expressions of life, the exact same thing. However, you know, comparing our experience to somebody else's, you know, comparison is the thief of joy. Grand, that's just a concept, but that's a beautiful concept when you realize I'm unique. This moment is unique to me. It will never be replicated. Can never ever be replicated. So fresh, so beautiful, so new. You know, so it's
And how amazing that you actually suddenly understand, that's what they were saying about self-love. How am I, when I am still a person and I'm so deficient, my teeth are wrong, my eyes are wrong, my shape, my size, my everything is wrong. How am I going to love myself? How am I going to fool myself into loving myself? And then suddenly you just step back and you see that incredible miracle of that incredibly functioning body-mind mechanism, completely interconnected with the whole universe and responding to everything. And you say, wow, amazing, unique and amazing. But you don't call it self-love anymore because there is no self, it is just love. But you see where the pointer was trying to point, which is completely impossible if you identify as a person trapped in the body. But it's totally obvious when you realize you are not the body mind and you see it for what it is, as this incredibly finely tuned, very sentient, very fragile, very responsive, vulnerable mechanism, which is mind-blowing. And unique and beautiful. I see there is another, Amara says, ego can't know self. Similarly, self can't know, but only a self itself. Yeah, the knowing. Yes, so thank you. Thank you for showing up. Bob will be very happy. I said I'm totally happy.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Thanks, Kat.
Kat, we are seeing you are also glowing.
Thanks, everyone.
We are always
Thanks,
with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
lovely evening.
All the best,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Yeah.
Thanks,
Lots of
everyone.
love.
All the best. Love
Thank
to
you.
Bob.
Bye.